Hello everybody! Welcome to another episode of Roaring Reddit, where we bring you content from Reddit, read by a real human, me. This was by PowerCube, and I rephrased it to be more specific. Today we're going to be talking about booby traps. What are some real-life instances of still working booby traps that have been set off at historical sites? The original poster added this. I found a post by Knight IT in an old history archive thread. The answer is, shockingly enough, yes. Archaeologists have found booby traps in tombs all over the world, meaning that they were not limited to a single culture either. And with a little bit of researching, you can find countless examples of traps set into tombs. Obviously, we're not talking of the giant boulder of death that rolls along the path narrowly avoiding killing you type of traps, but according to a certain Professor Qishi Hung, fitted his tomb with automatic crossbow, very similar to the one we see in the mummy tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Here's an article to begin your research. Have fun discovering how clever and cruel our ancestors were. The first thing on that list is the mummy's curse. So I'm going to go ahead and start inkling up the citation needed stamp right now. Curse inscriptions in tombs were pretty rare in ancient Egypt. The very idea of stealing from a tomb was generally unthinkable in the culture, and even just some talking about such desecration could have been dangerous. There apparently are some, but it seems the most likely reason to put a curse on a tomb would be for a private tomb of someone who had not ingratiated themselves to, for instance, the local ruler during their life. Essentially, since the Egyptian belief system felt that safe passage to the afterlife relied on proper funeral practices, to desecrate such would really only ever possibly be dared by someone like a pharaoh, lest your own trip to hereafter be similar sabotaged by vengeful family. When we look at other cultures, whether they are current or now, there is a fallacy, there is a falsehood, a pattern that we fuck up. And we tend to think of other cultures as homogenous, or as they all agree with each other. So when we say things like, the very idea of stealing from a tomb was generally unthinkable in the culture, this paints a picture of a society where there is no rape, there is no beggars, there are no thieves, there is no crime. And that just wasn't true. The reality is, all societies have issues, and no society has total homogeneity in a belief of some people of their culture. Godswing King adds, another part of why it's not been excavated, the Chinese one, is that an excavation of a Ming-era tomb back in the 60s was so horribly botched that the Chinese government has, for the time being, given up on excavating royal tombs at all, out of fear for damaging the tombs. Witch Spirit adds, I can't think of any traps, but archaeologists getting killed or injured on site isn't as uncommon as it should be. Personally, I was temporarily blinded on my last dig before leaving the field. We also have a lot of fun stories too. If you find an archaeologist, buy them a drink and you will have a lot of fun. The archaeologists who opened Tutankhamun's tomb had a horrific rate of unexplainable deaths, days or even weeks later. The origins of Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, I suspect. One theory I like is ancient pathogens that humans have lost their immunity to. It's also if you get enough people to believe in a curse, the curse exists at that point, even if it doesn't. How many people actually believe in that you can jinx something, right? By something's going well and you point it out, people will be like, shh, don't jinx it. We're superficial people. We're not superficial, what's the word? Superstitious humans. Yeah, humans are superstitious in general. And we're not as attached to reality as we would like to say we are. Ghost in the Woods adds, nah, only 8 people died within 12 years of the opening of the tomb, and only 1 man died from a fever. The rest had some fully explainable deaths. George Herbert, a financial backer of the excavation team. died on the 5th of April after a mosquito bite became infected. George J. Gold, a visitor to the tomb, died after he developed a fever following his visit. A.C. Mace, a member of the excavation team, died from arsenic poisoning. Richard Bethel, the secretary, died in bed in a Mayfair club of being smothered. Howard Carter died well over a decade later of Hodgkin's disease. Huh. Man, I'm glad a lot of those things don't kill people nowadays. Gaoshan adds, I know that the tomb of Qishong Huang, the emperor that is buried in a massive mound surrounded by terracotta warriors, is rumored to have all sorts of traps and amazing treasures, but the tomb is not planned to be opened, which is great in my opinion. Two of the more amazing treasure rumored to be inside, the ceiling is covered in gems to mimic the stars in the sky, and the entire known Earth is supposedly rendered on the ground with rivers and oceans of flowing mercury simulating water. That was back in the day, that when it was made. Their known Earth from the Chinese perspective, and they did theoretically, according to accounts that are pretty right so far about the terracotta warriors and everything else, they used mercury to simulate water in the rivers, but there's no way that mercury hasn't evaporated and seeped into everything over the thousands of years that have passed. So tests around the edge of the mound have found a high concentration of mercury. Exile to Earth adds, it may not be of any historical value, but during the Vietnam War, there was actually a hole placed in the ground on my family's property in Vietnam, supposedly connected to other tunnels and holes. My cousins tried to trick me into going into it, until my uncle came across us and they got in major trouble. Apparently the hole was booby-trapped and no one knew how to turn them off anymore. I asked them for more detail from my cousins later on, and they theorized everything from pockets of napalm to explosives. I have no idea if they were still just fucking with me. Whew, that's terrifying. Well, if I had a hole that I knew was booby-trapped, I mean, I would do something to, like, fill that shit with cement. I don't know, like, not trying to have children running around. I would explore that as a kid. Hell yeah. Freehide adds, I can totally suspend my disbelief to accept that ancient people rigged tombs and shit with booby traps to keep out looters. What I can't accept is that these rudimentary machines still function perfectly after hundreds of years of no maintenance. Take a brand new Corolla, stick it in a cave and abandon it for only 500 years, and you see if it still works. There is a toxic powder in some Egyptian tombs called hematite powder. It's very sharp and can kill you if you breathe in a lot of it, kind of like insulation, or fiberglass insulation. It also is very irritating to the skin and can cause respiratory illness. Keep in mind that most tombs have been raided loads of times before the archaeologists ever found them. Back in Egyptian times, there were parts of the Egyptian society that would loot tombs shortly after the tombs were even built. There were sliding walls that could drop into place and seal off a tomb. These were real things. However, they weren't traps in general. They were used as one of the ways to construct the pyramid. You need to access the tomb while you build it, but you don't want other people to be able to access it after you finish burying the pharaoh. So they would sometimes have a seal that was a granite slab that they would release the wood from, and the slab would slide into place. And this would entomb what was inside. However, that wasn't so much a trap that would happen behind you, as much as it was something that was supposed to be used after you finished building the pyramid. Right? Or, you could just tell everybody that the tomb was sealed and then rob it to your heart's delight with the rest of your rich family. Apparently, that was also super common. Physical traps just don't work in general after thousands of years. All the physical traps you see in movies are basically only in movies. There's a great article on booby traps in pyramids, and here's also a link from Today I Found Out. They have a great video on the subject. I don't know if it's true or if it's just a coincidence, but I've been told that ancient Egyptians revered cobras because they usually hide under rocks and will attack grave robbers when they're digging up burial sites. That's why they believed cobras protect the various tombs. All right, everybody. That's it for now. If you like this kind of content, please suggest something to us, like a video, check out another video, or subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Ciao.